Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janaballabha Giridvaradhari Gopi Janaballabha Giridvaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janaballabha Giridvaradhari Jaya Gopi Janaballabha Giridvaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janaballabha Giridvaradhari Jaya Gopi Janaballabha Giridvaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayam Vishabam Sabhadarajika Jaya Sto Desadasi Simat A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jayam Vishabam Sabhadarajika Jaya Sto Desadasi Simat Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Go Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today we're celebrating Shivaratri, and we'll speak about Lord Shiva based on Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Agana Tirmadandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militang Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasri Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. First, we should remember that we are hearing Srimad Bhagavatam because of the authority of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You cannot approach Bhagavatam without being authorized. And our authorization comes in parampara from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who said that before you are liberated, read Srimad Bhagavatam, and after you are liberated, go on reading Srimad Bhagavatam. When you're in doubt, read Srimad Bhagavatam, and when you are not in doubt, read Srimad Bhagavatam. Let us also remember that during Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, when he was touring South India, Lord Shiva and Parvati came to see him in a private place. In this way, Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan movement actually influenced the whole universe. It is not just talk. We say like that. The Sankirtan movement affected the whole Jagat, the whole material world. No, it is not exaggeration. Because as Mahaprabhu toured South India, many demigods disguised themselves as human beings and came to have his darshan. Even Lord Shiva and his consort, Parvati. Let's look at a particular incident regarding Lord Shiva from the 10th canto. You know, there was this Asura, this demon, Rika. He was the son of Shakuni. He was like a typical person today, burning with material desires. In a real human civilization, someone who has such grotesque material desires would be considered odd. But today, it is considered that the more burning your material desires are, the more civilized you are. And if you can act on those burning material desires, then you are known as what? A success. Success means coming out number one or minimum number two in the race. The race for trying to fulfill material desires that can never be fulfilled. So persons who are addicted to the success illusion generally think of human life as, number one, a race, or number two, a ladder. So either running the race, trying to come out number one, minimum number two, or else you're climbing the ladder, trying to get to the top of the pile, the top of the mountain, the top of all achievements. This is considered normal behavior, healthy behavior today. Vrikasura shows you the conclusion, the outcome of such behavior. Today, people are so bewildered, they actually cannot see the full outcome of their intense focus on gratifying material desires. Even though that result, that outcome is all around them, in the air they breathe, in the food they eat, in their health, both physical and mental, in the turbulence in their societies. In other words, the Vaishnavas, the followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu especially, know that it is time to present to the world a program for the readjustment of the entire human race in terms of its procedures, its goals. Vrikasura knew that sages have value in terms of they might be able to give blessings that help you to achieve your material goals. Not that he in any way wanted to become a saintly person, but he's willing to pull any lever, push any button that will have any promise, even in the least, of achieving his material ambitions. So therefore, it was not unusual for Vrikasura to ask Narada Muni. Just like you see today, so many persons want to approach a sadhu for blessings, for some kind of material ambition. Some of you yourself did that, or your parents did that. But Vrikasura is special because he took that mentality to the ultimate extreme. He was so self-absorbed. That's considered healthy these days, to be self-absorbed, to be so focused on achieving your goals. And, of course, while you're achieving your goals, you may give some assistance to your family and friends. But even that kind of charitable mentality is gradually reducing, even in India. More and more, success has become looking out for number one, looking out for yourself. After all, consider your existential situation. Consider your situation as a human being. What is the bottom line and what is the top line? What's the medium line? They're all the same. You have one life, one body, one opportunity. That's the notion that's driving all this extreme material ambition. One body, one life, one opportunity. What are you going to do in this short blip of time? You've got to fulfill yourself. You've got to succeed and then disappear. You may wonder, what? Parents who have no conception whatsoever of the next life, supreme authority, not even any conception of the demigods. What do they tell their children when the children ask, what will happen after death? Such parents tell their children, you'll just go back to nature from where you came. It'll be like peace, everlasting quiet. You just don't exist anymore. Most of you, of course, didn't come from such backgrounds where your parents would tell you that. Instead, you had some murky idea, some muddy idea that there's some kind of personalities in charge. You try to be as good as you can while making as much money as you can. And somehow or other, if one of the temples that you went to, and put something in the hundi, if one of those temples had a deity that actually functions and does things, then you've got that insurance policy coverage. So, whether we do it in a sort of pious way, or we try to accomplish our material ambitions in a very impious way, still, the focus is material ambition. Vrikasura, try to sympathize with him. He was so focused in the business and IT world. Isn't that considered such an advantage, such a desirable thing, to be focused like a laser beam on your work? Vrikasura was so focused. Therefore, he knew when he crossed paths with Narada Muni what to do. He wanted some success advice. How to succeed in 30 seconds. So he asked Narada Muni, of all the presiding deities, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, which one is the most easy to please? What's the button to press for the quickest result? You can sympathize with him, yes? It's pragmatic, practical, strategic planning. Which of the three will suit my purposes the best? You're Narada Muni. You're not envious. Everyone knows Narada Muni's not envious. So, please give me this advice. Narada Muni, being fully conscious of the mentalities of all living entities, gave an answer to Vrakasura according to Vrakasura's consciousness. In other words, Narada Muni told him, based on where you're at, based on where your mindset, based on your outlook, your worldview, the best person to worship, the best person to try to please is Lord Shiva. Narada Muni knew that Prakasura was a very low person. But today, Prakasura would be considered normal. How can I be the best? How can I win the race? How can I climb the ladder? What's the easiest way to succeed in 30 seconds or less? So that's why Narada Muni told Vrakasura to worship Lord Shiva. So what did Vrika do? He went to Kedarnath. Anyone been to Kedarnath in Kashmir? No one. No. He went there, and by a river, he started a yajna. And what were the sacrificial ingredients for the yajna? Pieces of his own flesh. He would cut off his own flesh and feed it into the yajna fire. 6 days went on like that. He was expecting Lord Shiva to appear. Because he's thinking, unless my Ishtadev, my worshipable deity, appears, my ambitions will not be fulfilled. Whereas devotees understand that Krishna doesn't have to become visible to your eyes. You have so many other senses, tongue, ears. Krishna can come to you through sound vibration. Krishna can come to you as prasad. But being in the bodily concept of life, and that bodily conception of life is so important in the life of a non-devotee. That bodily conception rules everything. So therefore, can you understand why Vrika was thinking, Shiva has to physically appear in front of me, then I will succeed. There's no question of appearing through Shabda Brahman or Vani. No. Shiva must appear right before my eyes in his physical form. Then I know I have succeeded. After 6 days of cutting his flesh and feeding it into the sacrificial fire, and no Shiva hadn't turned up yet. Vrikasura decided to do the ultimate. He wet himself in the river, because that's how animals are treated before they're offered in yajna. He wetted himself and then prepared to cut off his own head and feed it into the sacrificial fire. At that moment, Lord Shiva appeared. Why? Out of compassion. You don't have to do all this just to please me. Persons offer me a little water and I become pleased. Why is it you're trying to end your life cutting off your head? It's not necessary. Shiva became overwhelmed by compassion. So now you say, well, that sounds like a very good Ishtadev. So, open to the desires of the worshiper. Sometimes we have problems with Krishna, right? Because he doesn't seem open to our program. But here you see Lord Shiva is wide open to Vrika's program. First of all, Shiva shows such immense compassion. You don't have to cut off your head. And Shiva tells him, you can ask me anything you want. You please me. So we're thinking, yes, this is the real self-realization. Right? Let's see how magnanimous Lord Shiva is. But you're going to find out that Shiva is fully dependent on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even such a most powerful personality who is neither God, as you know, nor living entity. He's in the in-between category. Everything about Lord Shiva, Shiva Tattva, is totally exotic, totally unique. He's in his own niche market. So Lord Shiva said, you can have whatever you want. Ask me any benediction, I'll fulfill it. Who is Shiva talking to? He's talking to such a person with twisted, perverted material desires. That means immediately Vrikasura knew what to ask for. If you were a typical Kali Yuga person of today, without any coverings of piety or any pretenses of dharma, someone asks you, what do you want? You can have whatever you want. You think like that, and you can sympathize with Vrikasura. This is one of the themes of the talk today. Sympathize for Vrikasura. Try to see yourself in Vrikasura. He's motivated. He's dynamic. He's success-driven. He's focused. He's got a passion for his goals. All the things that the corporates want, right? So, when Shiva said you can have anything you want, what was Vrikasura thinking? I want your wife. I want Parvati. How was he going to get that? He didn't say he wanted Parvati, but he said, I want the benediction that whosever head I touch will crack open. So right from the start, he's thinking, I'll ask for that benediction, and then I'll touch Lord Shiva's head, finish him off, and then I get Parvati. This is the same as so-called civilization today. As Prabhupada would tell us so many times, the end result of all this so-called advancement, economics, politics, what's the end result? Sex life. That's the be-all and end-all of material existence. Of course, in previous decades in India, this reality was hidden. Now, thanks to Bollywood, it's completely out in the open. What is the otum protum? Like you have a cloth, and the cloth is made of threads that go horizontal and vertical. So in Sanskrit, that is known as otum protum. So what is the otum protum of existence today? Both the horizontal thread and the vertical thread. The otum protum is sense gratification. So again, appreciate Vrikasura. Have sympathy for him. He cut to the chase. He got right down to the bottom line. When I get the benediction, that whosever head I touch cracks open, I'll use that benediction on Lord Shiva himself, the one who offered me the benediction. I don't care. I want to succeed. I want to be CEO. Or at least CFO. When I have Parvati for myself, I'll be able to accomplish all my ambitions because she is the material energy. What could Lord Shiva do? He had already given the benediction. Immediately Vrakasura began to chase Lord Shiva here, there, everywhere, all over the universe. He is comparable to demoniac scientists of today who misuse their intelligence to create so many innovations that destroy the world, or are capable of destroying the world. Just consider all the thousands of nuclear weapons in the world. If just 1/3 of the nuclear weapons that Pakistan and India have are utilized on each other, just 100 of them are set off, that is enough to cause an effect on the Earth's climate that has never been seen before. Just 100 of them. Even if it's what's called a limited nuclear exchange. To see how people's language conditions them to being able to think about the unthinkable. A limited nuclear exchange. Now that's a good thing. It's not mass global destruction, but a limited nuclear exchange, let's say between Pakistan and India. The results will all be contained on the southern hemisphere. No. The mass destruction will immediately be felt in one region. But the effects on the atmosphere, the climate, the sunshine, the rainfall will affect the whole world. Everyone's so accustomed to the presence of nuclear weapons. If you ask the average American, what is the notion that such a person has? Our freedoms, our liberty, our independence is all because of our nuclear arsenal. The nuclear arsenal is guaranteeing our freedom. It's guaranteeing our human rights. They don't understand. They've become slaves to their nuclear arsenal. I explained last year in Vrindavan, maybe some of you were there, that I was talking about it a little bit in Mayapur this year also. Former president of the USA. He was a nice guy. He won the Nobel Peace Prize as soon as he took office. But then he got caught up in a program to modernize the nuclear arsenal. So you might say, well, he won the Nobel Peace Prize, and then what is this? And how much is this program to modernize the nuclear arsenal? It is, over 30 years, $1 trillion. You have no idea what $1 trillion is. I'll give you an example. Let's consider that the Temple of Vedic Planetarium cost $60 million. Okay, you got that? $60 million for one Temple Vedic Planetarium. Everyone has seen the temple, right? All right. $1 trillion means 16,600 TOVPs. See the kind of money that's circulating in the world, and you see why it is so demoniac. When we put it in this way, you can grasp what's going on. 1 trillion, you can't visualize what $1 trillion is. But yes, 16,600 TOVPs. You're thinking, where will they all go? 16,600 TOVPs. Well, where will all the nuclear weapons go? This is demoniac. This is misuse of intelligence, just as Rakasura is misusing his intelligence. So again, our theme for today, have sympathy for Rakasura. He's not so unusual. There's a Rakasura lurking in everyone's heart these days. I will succeed. I will focus. I will win the race, climb the ladder. And that's the purpose of my life. The Lord Shiva is running all over the universe, trying to escape Rakasura. This shows you Lord Shiva, even though he's such an inconceivably extraordinary personality, he gets into situations in which the Supreme Personality of Godhead has to rescue him. Vaishnavanam Yata Shambhu, he's the greatest Vaishnav. He's not a living entity. He's not God. He's his own tattva. Still, as Chaitanya Charitamrita says, Ekale Ishwar Krishna Ar Sabha Bhritya. There's only one controller, that is Krishna. Everyone else is his servant. Even Shiva, Brahma, all the devas. Lord Shiva ran everywhere. He went to all the other top personalities of the universe, but none of them could help. They were all silent. What can we do? Even Brahma couldn't do anything about it. So finally, Lord Shiva went to Svetadweep. That's a Vaikuntha planet within the material world, like an embassy of Vaikuntha. Lord Shiva went there. And the Supreme Personality of Godhead knew he was coming. He took the form of a young brahmachari, dressed as a little brahmachari boy. And he began to speak to Vrika in a very charming way. First of all, his presence, the presence of Supreme Personality of Godhead as a little brahmachari boy, was very attractive. And he began to speak in a very attractive way, just suitable for Vrika's understanding. My dear son of Sakuni. So what did Vrikasura think? Oh, you know my family. Because if you're totally in material consciousness, so much of your life is based on your bodily relations. So Vrika felt that this brahmachari boy is tuned in. He knows my family. I am the body, and my bodily relations are also me. Okay, the conversation has really started off properly, accurately. And then Supreme Personality of Godhead told him, you look tired. You've been running here and there. You should take care of your body, you know. You need to think about your physical fitness. Again, this message is perfectly focused on Vrika's mentality, which was the bodily conception of life. So, therefore, the young brahmachari boy, who is Vishnu in disguise, told him, hey, what about your body? You got to build up your body, you know. Take better care of your body. Remember, one body, one life, one opportunity. So he got Vrika's attention and trust just by talking about his family, talking about his body. So he said, what's happening here? What's the situation? So Vrika told him, I've got this benediction from Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva's there also. I can touch anyone's head and make it crack. I want to use it on him. So, you know what the brahmachari boy told Vrika. Lord Shiva told you that, huh? I mean, can you really trust him? You know, he gets into so many dodgy situations, you know, living in crematoriums, smearing the body with ashes, you know, living under a tree. He gets in hot water with daksha. He's the lead, you know, judge a man by his associates. He hangs out with ghosts and hobgoblins, and you're really going to believe him? I tell you what, let's be scientific. You be a scientist, no religious belief. Are you just going to believe because Lord Shiva said something? You have to go into the laboratory. Be a scientist. Don't believe anything unless your senses can verify it. Your sense perception is the supreme absolute truth. What is this shabda? You heard something from Shiva that you have the ability to touch anyone's head and make it crack open. Sounds to me like religious faith. Vrika, are you a true believer? Come on, Vrika, wake up. You're an advanced, contemporary person. You know, seeing is believing. Not hearing is believing. That's that Vaishnav stuff. Seeing with your own eyes, that's the only proof. Just because Shiva says something, you're just like those devotees. The Guru says this, Prabhupada said. How unscientific. Vrika, we've got to put this to the test since you really think it may be true. Here's what you do. We know Shiva is so untrustworthy. Why don't you try it out on yourself? Then you'll know for sure. And when it's obvious that Lord Shiva told you some untruth, you can then take action on Lord Shiva. I'll give you full facility. So I know you're thinking, why did Vrika fall for such a plot, right? But the Supreme Personality of Godhead has his Shaktis, his covering energies. Plus, he's so attractive. He spoke in such an alluring, mesmerizing way. Vrika couldn't resist. When Krishna wants to cover over you and bewilder you, what can you do? Even Arjuna, in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, was put into Maya by Krishna's arrangement. You know, on the chariot, Arjuna and Parthasarathi. Senyo ubaya madhye ratam stapaya mechuta. Oh, infallible one who never fails to satisfy his devotees. Please drive my chariot in between the two armies so I can see who's here, what their mentality is. So Krishna, as Parthasarathi, did that. And then he saw Arjuna becoming bewildered. What that was actually by Krishna's arrangement, so that Bhagavad Gita could be spoken. Krishna even smiled. Why was Krishna smiling? He's thinking, just see the power of my illusory energy. Arjuna is right here on the chariot with me, and he's still falling into Maya. Just see how powerful my Shakti is. That's why Krishna was smiling. So, don't have any doubt that Vrika could be covered over. It sounds, because you know the plot, you know the pastime, you're thinking, oh, why did he fall for that? I would have never fallen for that. But you don't know how alluring, how charming is the Supreme Personality Godhead. So, Vrika swallowed everything that the Brahmachari boy was saying. And of course, he tried it out on his own head, and that was the end of him. So then, the Bhagavatam describes, the Acharyas in their commentaries point out that Vishnu gave a little instruction to Shiva. You know, you should be more careful with your benedictions. You got overwhelmed by your compassion and you said such a thing. But next time, be more careful. This is an example of how sometimes the demigods give benedictions which are not at all healthy for their worshipers, whereas the Supreme Personality Godhead will never do that. Some people take that to be a problem. Why won't Krishna give me what I want? The demigods seem to cooperate with my program. So they think that this is a minus point in dealing with Krishna. But is it a minus point to have a parent who knows better than you and refuses to give you what is not ultimately beneficial for you? Just like if you told your parents when you were a little kid, if when you were 3 or 4 years old, you told your parents, I'm definitely not going to school. I simply want to play all day. Would it be a beneficial parent who said, yes, yes, you may have that benediction? No. The real parent knows what's best for the good of the child. But the child's simply thinking, prayas, what is immediately apparently good. The parent is thinking, shreyas, what is the medium and long range good. So would you criticize your parents? Why are you thinking of my medium and long range good? I am 4 years old. I know what I'm doing. Cooperate with my program. No, you would not say that to your parents. Sometimes your parents would withhold things from you that you wanted. Sometimes they would even punish you. Is that bad? I remember when I was maybe 8 years old. 8 years old, yes. And I didn't do my homework one day. And so the teacher wrote a note. And she said, you have to take this to your parents and have them sign it. That way I know that they read the note. The note simply said, and I didn't do my homework. So I had a brilliant idea. I was 8 years old. My grandfather and my father and I have the same legal name. Oh, I thought, okay, I won't show the note to my parents. I'll sign the note myself because I have the same name as my father. Same name as my grandfather. I'm such and such the third. So, all right. But I signed the note, in a way that anyone could look at it and see there was a child's handwriting. I didn't think about that. It was my first crime. So next morning, the teacher asked for the notes that she had written to parents, and I gave her the note. She called me up to her desk. Did you sign this note? I had to say yes. So then on top of that note, she wrote something else. That now you take this to your parents. She wrote, he has forged your signature. This is like a crime for the FBI to investigate. And now I was really in deep trouble. My father was a police administrator. His son comes home from school with a note, with obviously a forged signature, and the note saying that he has done forgery. So, my father, he didn't say much. He just told my mother to take action. So, she got out my father's belt and over my bare buttocks. I remember while this was going on, one of the neighbors, one of the men who lived in the neighborhood, he came to visit my father, and he asked, what's going on? As my mother is, and so my mother told him, he forged his father's signature. So the neighbor man said, go on beating, go on beating. So was that good or bad, my mother's treatment? Of course, at the time, I didn't like it. But you all know it was for my ultimate good. So sometimes it seems that Krishna is giving us distress. But this situation is compared to a child asleep at night and has to take some medicine. Which reminds me, I forgot to take my medicine. 1 minute. So to wake the child up for taking the medicine, the mother pinches the child. That seems like she's giving the child distress. But what's the purpose? Similarly, the distress that Krishna seems to give devotees is never the same as distress that comes from karma. When Krishna seemingly gives distress to his devotee, it has one or two purposes. First of all, by being in so-called distress, the devotee clings more tightly to Krishna. Secondly, the so-called distress makes the devotee appreciate Krishna's mercy even more. Examples given in the Shastra, that after a dark, long night, when the sun finally rises in the morning, you appreciate it so much. After a cold winter, or a cold morning like today, when the sun finally comes out, you appreciate the warmth. Or on a blazing hot day, when you have a cool bath in the river, you feel so refreshed. So similarly, Krishna knows how to deal with your consciousness, how to make us more attached to him, and how to make us appreciate his mercy more. So the situation seems like distress, but it's not the same as the karmic distress that a non-devotee gets. This is a very important point to understand, because a cynic or materialist could criticize. What's the difference? Non-devotees have distress, devotees have distress. What's the difference? You're going through all this puja, doing all this archana, and you're getting distressed. You're getting old. You're getting sick. You're dying. The materialist is getting old, getting sick, dying. Everyone's getting distressed, whether to do puja, archana, or not. You're chanting Hare Krishna, making kirtan. Still, distress is coming to your body. So, what is the point? First of all, the happiness and distress of a non-devotee leads to more karmic entanglement in the future. But the so-called distress that a devotee goes through has no karmic result. It's a special blend given by Krishna. As Lord Brahma says, Karmani nadahati kintuja bhakti bhajam govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami. Minimize karmic reactions. It's not the laws of karma. It is Krishna personally giving you just a pinch of what you deserve. So remember, the happiness and distress of a non-devotee is always connected to a chain of action and reaction, and it'll cause more problems in the future. It's not that as a non-devotee you're feeling distress or happiness and then that's it. No, all the happiness and distress that you're experiencing is linked to future happiness and distress, and it goes on and on and on as you change one body after another. Whereas the so-called distress that a devotee experiences has no karmic linkage. It's a very important point. There are no reactions. It's Krishna bringing the devotee closer to him. It's Krishna making the devotee appreciate his mercy more. Finally, you might say, if Krishna is all-powerful, why does he have to make me go through distress? Even though the distress for a devotee has no karmic reactions, still, why can't Krishna just make me appreciate, since he's all-powerful? But Krishna is very expert and very artistic at dealing with our independence. Because without even our tiny bit of independence, there can't be ecstatic love. Ecstatic love depends on some free choice. So therefore, Krishna expertly arranges circumstances so that we will choose him more. We'll choose him with more intensity. It is never that Krishna says with a gun in his hand, come here, love me, be happy. Where is the ecstasy? Ecstasy is based on choice. The lover and the beloved want to feel that they are choosing each other. They're choosing to deepen the relationship. So Krishna knows how to manage our affairs so that we choose him more. That's Krishna's artistry. So today, we're celebrating Shivaratri. Sometimes, as you know, the bridge buses led by Nanda Maharaj would celebrate Shivaratri. But not regularly. And when they did do it, it was with a fun attitude. Because their whole life is focused on Krishna. Whatever they do, whomever they talk to, whomever they appeal to, the residents of Vrindavan are simply wanting increased devotion to Krishna. And whether Krishna is God or not doesn't matter to them. They just want increased attraction for Krishna. So therefore, you can read in Krishna Leela how the Brijbasis, led by Nanda Maharaj, in a fun way decided to journey to Ambikavan to celebrate Shivaratri. Not every year, but let's do it. This year, let's do it. Okay. Load up the ox carts. We'll go do it. With a great fun attitude. All right, any questions? Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for your wonderful lecture. Maharaj, I wanted to ask one thing about Lord Shiva. In the Srimad Bhagavatam it says, even great sages who have no material attachments do not contact him, despite their always being absorbed in meditation to attain his personal contact.
Do not contact, great sages do not what?
Do not contact him, despite their
Contact
always...
who?
Lord Shiva.
Uh-huh.
Despite their always being absorbed in meditation to attain his personal contact. So my question is, how come we understand that the ghost and the evil spirits, they associate Lord Shiva and Lord Shiva is merciful to them, when the great sages who want to see him cannot see him?
But those ghosts and hobgoblins, they don't get the same kind of darshan that the great sages get. Lord Shiva arranges for them to get a gross physical body, but don't think that such evil creatures get the same kind of darshan that, for example, you read about in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, as Narada Muni is going through the material and spiritual worlds looking for the greatest devotee. So, Brihad Bhagavatamrita, you have read that? You have read Brihad Bhagavatamrita? Yeah, it is now just come out in India, economical edition by the BBT. 3 volumes, just last week. So the search for the greatest devotee began with a brahmana at Prayag, and then went to a king in South India, and then went to the heavenly planets, to Indra, then went from Indra to Brahma, and Brahma sent Narada Muni to Shiva. But that darshan that Narada Muni has of Shiva is no comparison to the very minimal sangha that the hobgoblins and ghosts get. And what happened then? After Narada approached Lord Shiva, you are the greatest devotee. Lord Shiva sends him to Prahlad. And then where does Prahlad send him? Prahlad sends him to Hanuman. Hanuman sends him to the Yadus. The Yadus send him to Uddhava. On and on it goes. Higher and higher, and to the topmost portion of the spiritual world. Here's another way of understanding. Back in the days when Prabhupada was physically present with us, we were all vying, longing to have Prabhupada's personal association, to be part of his entourage. And so we judged how advanced a devotee was based on how physically close he was with Srila Prabhupada. And one day Prabhupada said an amazing thing. He said, if you judge who is an advanced devotee by who is physically closest to me, then I say the mosquito is the best devotee. But what is the purpose of the mosquito? It's to bite me. In other words, everything is not judged by physical proximity. Someone may seem to be so close physically, but far away spiritually. That's the best answer I can give to your question. Well, let us see if anyone else has a question. Oh, Hare Krishna. Yes. He's asking if the Shakuni, that's the father of Vrika, is he the same as in the Mahabharata? This story about Vrika, the Acharyas say, is from another kalpa, another day of Brahma. You see, the incident comes up in a discussion between Pritchett and Shukadev, and Pritchett and Shukadev refer to another discussion between Krishna and Yudhisthira. And in that discussion between Krishna and Yudhisthira, there's a reference to an event from another kalpa, another day of Lord Brahma. It's the best I can tell you. In other words, the Vrika incident was not during the time of Krishna's presence on the planet with the Pandavas. Very good question. You are reading Krishna book? Huh? You used to read, but you stopped. Why? You're not watching too many cricket matches, are you? Never stop reading Krishna's pastimes. Okay? Yes.
Maharaj, why the people worship Shiva Linga? Instead of Shiva's personal form, the people worship Shiva Linga.
Potency. The material world comes about in a very esoteric way in the interaction between Shiva and Parvati. So they're worshiping that power source. Lord Shiva, everything about him is very exotic. It's its own niche, as I said. Lord Shiva, in spite of that, is so renounced that he's not affected even when the linga is worshipped by Parvati. That's how renounced Lord Shiva is. So such power is there. He's not an ordinary living entity, and he's not God. Such power is there and such detachment.
Maharaj, another question there is.
Well, you have to give everyone a chance.
Hare Krishna.
Yes. Wait for the microphone, please.
Hare Krishna. Maharaj, this is regarding the point you talked about suffering. When Krishna gives the devotees the suffering, there is no karmic reaction involved. So is it also not involved in terms of burning of the karmas, or is it the way how we react to that situation? I mean, how there's no karmic reaction involved in that?
You see, anything in material existence that happens, whether it's happiness or distress, always leads to more reactions. But when Krishna is personally dealing with a devotee, there is no karmic entanglement. There's no karmic outcomes that go on and on as a chain of action and reaction. As Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Anadi karma pale, bhavarnava jale. You can't trace out where all these karmic reactions begin. So, yes, I also was thinking about this lately. We normally don't consider that ordinary happiness and distress is not a one-off event. It's not like its own self-contained package. It leads to more stuff and more stuff and more stuff. We think, okay, I'm experiencing some material happiness or distress. All right, that's over with. It's done. I experienced the happiness, it's finished. I experienced the distress, finished. No. The chain goes on and on and on and on. Whereas when Krishna sends us some so-called distress, it's a, so to speak, it's a one-off event. It has no karmic linkage. It's meant to increase our dependency on Krishna. Later, it's easy for us to see it, but when it's happening, it's harder to see it, unless we have guidance. Therefore, even Bhishma Dev said about the Pandavas, oh my God, how is it that they went through what they went through? Yudhisthira is the son of Dharmaraj, personified. Arjuna, the great fighter with Gandiva bow. Bhima, the great fighter with the club. And the Supreme Personality Godhead is their personal friend. Draupadi is practically the goddess of fortune. Still, they all went through so many ordeals. Even the greatest warrior, Bhishma Dev, tears came to his eyes thinking about it. He said, his conclusion was, who can understand the plan of the Lord? It's all inconceivable. But the result was now plain. And therefore, it was plain to see, therefore Bhishma Dev could leave the world happily, because the Pandavas were back in their rightful place. But while they were going through what they were going through, it looked impossible to understand. So often it's like that with us. We go through some personal distress as devotees, and then later we see if we properly responded to the distress by taking more shelter of Krishna.